As I said earlier, I've had questions given to me in every possible form in this digital age, and so I have drawn from a lot of those. This will be a little bit different form of questioning because we have an incumbent tonight, Molly White, and we have someone who has previously served in the legislature, Hugh Shine. They are both very, very aware of the process, how things happen, so we may get just a little bit further down into the weeds. Each of you has been involved recently in a situation that, shall we say, has spurred a few letters to the editor. Hugh, let's start with you. You recently sold some land to the city of Temple for in the neighborhood of $4 million. What do we need to know about that?
Well, very simple. My wife and I owned that property for nearly 17 years. It was not for sale. I baled hay on that property all those 17 years to support my livestock and my ranch operations. When the city approached me on the purchase of that property, my wife and I considered that. We also had been in litigation with the highway department because if you notice, Interstate 35 is under expansion. And it might be under expansion for quite a while. We considered the offer, and we accepted the offer. And about 2 weeks after we accepted the offer, when the city council voted to approve their purchase, we discovered who they were buying the property for. And that's pretty much it. We owned the property, owned it for a long time. It was part of my ranch operation. We received an offer, we accepted the offer, and we sold it.
Molly, in your case, there was a bit of a brouhaha over your office on Muslim Day at the state capitol. What do we need to know about that?
Well, on that day, a group of Muslims came to the Capitol that were sponsored by an organization called CARE, the Council of American and Islamic Relationship. CARE was founded and organized by the Muslim Brotherhood. They are a Hamas organization that promotes terror around the world. I kind of had an issue with that. And yes, all of us representatives were back in our districts on that day, and I had talked to my staff about it before I left. And that I wanted them to know that if representatives from CARE came into our office, we had a few questions for them. 1, would you denounce terrorism? Number 2, is your allegiance to the United States or is it to Islam? And 3, of course, I had an Israeli flag on the desk along with the American flag and the Texas flag because Texans stand with Israel. And that's what brought the ear of a lot of liberals. But I'm going to tell you today, I will stand against radical Islam tooth and nail without any apology.
Amen.
I was told to move this question to the front by one of the people in the audience tonight. She knows who she is. Molly, will you or will you not support Joe Strauss for Speaker of the House?
Well, I didn't vote for him last time, and I was really surprised that many more of my colleagues voted for him or didn't vote for him because we had such a wonderful candidate, a true conservative that ran against him. In fact, the first black man that would run for Speaker of the House. So I was very surprised that more of us did not vote for Joe Strauss, but I did not vote for him because I am standing strong on my conservative values, and I do not believe Mr. Strauss is a conservative.
Right.
All right. I know both of these people. I'm calling them Molly and Hugh. I should call him Mr. Shine. What are your thoughts on Speaker Strauss?
Well, I've got to get elected before I have the opportunity to vote for the Speaker. Because the Speaker of the House is elected every 2 years in every new session of the legislature. I've never met Joe Strauss, ladies and gentlemen. I've never worked with Joe Strauss. I don't know anything about him other than what people have said or asked questions about. What I believe is that the Republican caucus should be the caucus that chooses the next speaker. And this is the way it should work. The caucus meets, and they come up with their nominee, and they bring that nominee to the floor of the House. We don't need Democrats electing our speaker. We need Republicans who have the majority electing our speaker. So my vote for speaker will be for the most conservative Republican in the Republican caucus that can effectively lead the state legislature.
views about term limits for members of the Texas House?
I support term limits. I will also tell you, though, the best thing that we have going for us in Texas is the fact that the pay is only $600 a month, and you get natural turnover because most folks can't afford to stay in the legislature that long because of it. But yes, I support term limits. I think we should have it for the House members as well as the Senate. I take it another step. I also believe that people who've served in the legislature, there should be some kind of waiting period after they finish their term before they become lobbyists.
All right, Molly, hold on just a moment. We have a Ford blocking traffic. Is that a pickup, Jeff? A Ford pickup? I'm not driving a Ford, so I'm good. It's 4FXRX. 4FXRX. All right, you're very welcome. All right, Molly, on term limits.
Well, I support term limits too. And let me tell you, I didn't run for office to become a career politician. I ran for office because there's a battle going on for our conservative values in the state of Texas. And as long as I'm able to, I'm going to be on that front line and fight for our conservative values. But I do support it. I do agree with Mr. Shine. It's only a $600 a month job. It's nothing that I want to stay in long term. But as long as there's a battle going on and I have the energy to do it, that's what I'd like to do. But I'd like term limits to go all the way over to the Supreme Court of the United States as well.
All right, keep them on. Keep them on. All right, both of you, what's the pay? $600 for a term?
Yes.
All right, $600. However, if you stay there 8 years and you retire, at age 60, you get $23,000 a year for the rest of your life. After 12 years, at the age of 50, you get $34,500 for the rest of your life. Former Speaker Tom Craddock served 44 years. He draws more than $126,000 in state pension for the rest of his life. Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson gets $35,000 per year from Texas as a pension in addition to her salary as a congresswoman. Is that okay, or does that need to be reformed?
Well, I don't mind it being reformed. It's up to the voters of the state of Texas. But let me tell you, when you're there for 6 months, you're working very, very hard. And you're representing your constituents back home in Texas. I'm not in it. I didn't even know how much people got paid after the end of certain years. I'm not in it for the money, obviously. In fact, when I got this job, my husband's going, "Is that all you're making?" And I said, "Well, it's more than I have been making because I wasn't employed before that." It doesn't bother me. If the voters of the state of Texas think that's too much, then they need to bring it to their representatives and we need to look at it and fight for it.
Mr. Shine, is that fair compensation, or do you think it should be reformed in some way? More retirement, less retirement? What?
I believe that there should not be any retirement for public service. I think that people who serve in Congress as well as the legislature, there should not be those types of benefits because it should be public service. And I believe you get term limits automatically if you make it truly public service, because then people go down there with the express purpose of serving their communities and not looking to get the benefits of having to be down there. They get per diem. They get the $600 a month. That should be sufficient to take care of their expenses while they're there serving. And that's exactly what we should expect for those who want to serve our communities and be public servants.
Mr. Shine, let me ask you the question I asked earlier about lobbyists. Washington is crawling with them, but no more so than Austin is crawling with them. We have sanctuary cities because of a certain lobbying firm that was hired by Charles Budd and by the late Bob Perry. Without getting into that, because we'll do that later, will you, if elected, take a dime, a car ride, an airplane ride, a meal, anything from a lobbyist?
Let me just say, those of you in this room who are working in a profession probably have a lobbyist in Austin that's representing you. If you don't, you're probably an independent business person that's not part of NFIB or any other association. Lobbyists do serve a purpose. Now, I'm of the opinion that that the member needs to treat the lobbyist with a great deal of discretion. But there's many cases where lobbyists are representing people in the district, as well as people in the district, wanting representation. So I don't think you cut that off. You know, as far as I'm concerned, if someone wants to have lunch with me or dinner with me, if I want to have lunch with them, I'll pick up the tab. I'm not interested in living on the lobby. A lot of members do that. That's not my objective. I want to be home. I go to Austin. I want to serve the district. I want to do the Lord's work in the Devil's City. And I want to come home with my family and meet with my constituents that I represent and take care of business and all those clients that I have, because I enjoy what I do and I want to continue to do what I do. I just see serving you as your state representative as public service, and that's what I want to do.
Representative White, what is your policy on lobbyists and accepting things from them?
Well, mine is very similar to Mr. Shine. I'm not going down to Austin to be schmoozed by lobbyists. I'm going down there to represent my constituents. But a lobbyist have come to me and they have taught me a lot of things about different issues that I didn't know about. And then I take that with a grain. But my main objective is to represent you and your values down in Austin. I'm sure there's a lot of lobbyists that go around and wine and dine and schmooze other members, but I'm not part of that. It's not anything that I'm interested in doing. So no, I would not take it, especially if you're thinking it'd be a bribe to get me to vote one way or the other. In fact, most of the establishment PAC groups down there and the lobby firms, they know not to even come and talk to me, because I'm not going to vote their way, because I don't believe in what they have to offer. They know that I'm going to stick to my values and vote conservative, because that's the people that I represent here in this district. If you don't mind, I'm going to stand because my knees are getting worn out.
I have one clarification I'd like to offer folks.
Right.
There are two types of lobbyists.
30 seconds.
Okay, two types of lobbyists in Austin. There are those that represent agencies and represent organizations, and then there are those that are called hired guns. There's a difference between the two. And I think that needs to be differentiated when you start talking about lobbyists and your association with them.
Rebuttal, Molly? 30 seconds.
That's true.
All right, well, since we're on this, and Molly has the microphone, there is the Texas Association of Counties, there is the Texas Municipal League, there is the Texas Association of School Boards. These are all taxing entities that use your tax money to hire lobbyists to go to Austin to get your taxes raised. Could that be stopped? Should it be stopped?
Well, I don't know if it should be stopped, but my staff and I know that when we bring the lobbyists and when they come in to meet with us to discuss their issues, that we will listen to them, but we have a set of guidelines that we go by to judge each and every bill that comes before us. And not only that, when I look at a bill, if it has something to do with my district and the folks back home, I call back home to my kitchen cabinet or to people that I know to get advice on which way to vote on a bill, how they feel about a bill, and if this organization is truly representing their needs. So,
Mr. Shine, I would ask you the same question. Should municipal, county, and school taxes be used to hire lobbyists that in turn go to Austin and advocate for higher taxes?
Well, then I'm not sure if they use taxes to pay for the lobbyists, okay? I think in a lot of those associations, those are paid by dues that maybe those who are serving in those capacities might be paying. So I don't know exactly the answer of how they're funded in that regards. But once again, you have associations that represent people that live in the district, and people choose to be a part of those associations, and whether it's the school boards or the Texas State Teachers Association or any of those organizations, they represent people that are in the district. You're going to visit with the people in the district, of course, but they're also going to be an extension for you down there as well. What you need to do as a member is to make sure what they're telling you in Austin is the same thing that they're talking to their people back in the district about, so that there's consistency and continuity in that discussion.
Do you support the proposed hotel-motel tax that is currently under consideration in Bell County?
Well, the hotel-motel tax is no longer under consideration. It's passed, it's law. And it's already generating money, and that money is going to be used to cover operation expense for the Expo Center. The Expo Center is an economic engine in Central Texas. And yes, if I were the member and the bill was in my hands, I would have sponsored that bill and I would have voted for it. And here's why. The hotel motel tax did not tax anybody in my district. It taxed people who came and spent money in the district. People who went to our restaurants, people who bought things at our convenience stores, people that went to the mall and all our other retail stores. And during the summer, we had 6 solid weeks where the Expo Center was full of activity. That's money that comes into Central Texas that we would not have otherwise. And I would rather for those people to pay an extra 2 cents or 2% on the hotel motel tax than to ask you to increase your property taxes to support the operations of the Expo Center, which serves a very good purpose for our young people, our 4-H, and a lot of other associations and people in our community.
Well, you know, there's a saying, whenever you rob Peter to pay Paul, you always get the support of Paul. But as far as the hotel-motel tax is concerned, it is passed into law. It came through on the Senate side. But my position on it was, all along, I thought it was a good idea. Did I agree how the revenue would be raised? No. But I went door to door talking to thousands of voters as a fiscal conservative and that I would not raise taxes and I was not going to go back on my word. I also had Representative Jimmy Don Aycock and Senator Frazier who totally opposed that bill the whole entire time. And I, as a freshman, felt like I would need to go by their lead. If they opposed the bill, then I opposed the bill. If they supported the bill, then I would. It came down to the very last hour in session that Senator Frazier buckled under pressure and put a rider or an amendment on a House bill that would increase taxes in this district. And then it was carried on a House bill, and Jimmy Don Aycock and Senator Frazier both voted for it. Why? Because they're not running for re-election. I stuck to my guns because I wanted to do what I told the voters I would do. I did not support it.
All right. 30 seconds, Hugh Shine.
Hotel-motel tax didn't see its first light of day this past session. It has been something that's been discussed for a number of different sessions. The hotel-motel tax, okay, for the first time this past year, had resolutions from every Chamber of Commerce and every business organization in the entire county of Bell County, indicating their support. These organizations represent all of us in some form or fashion, and they said, yes, this is important for us to have in Bell County.
30 seconds, Mrs. White.
Well, it did not have overwhelming support because I got a lot of phone calls opposing that tax. And the tax was not, it had morphed over a period of time. It was supposed to go from what we were told to build a new addition to the Expo Center. That building already has its own funding. We were told that it was going to cover the cost of the renovation of the old building. That old building, they're going to borrow against the debt of it and use that money to renovate it, leaving the $900,000 a year we pay in taxes to be spent on another project. And then the rest of the money, after it's divided amongst the different cities, was going to be spent on the upkeep of the new building.
Molly, keep your...
I've got to respond again.
All right, 30 seconds.
All right, let me point out...
Hold on, let's make a rule here. Last response for each, 30 seconds.
Let me just say that the operation expense of the hotel-motel tax, there's no way in the world that the dollars that the hotel-motel tax would generate would satisfy debt service. It was never intended for debt service. It was intended to be for operational purposes so that operational money could be taken off the county budget so that it wouldn't impact property taxes, so that it would be able to be a standalone for operations, and any kind of a capital improvement would have to be done through a bonding program.
All right, 30 seconds.
Well, again, that is not how it was presented to the voters, and that's not how it was presented to me the day that the county commissioners...
It's the way it was presented this past session.
Please.
The way they came and presented to me, but it all boils down to this. I ran as a fiscal conservative and said I would not support the raising of taxes, and neither would Chairman Aycock or Senator Frazier. But they did at the last hour when they knew they weren't running for re-election. I stood by my word, and I will continue to stand by my word because I'm someone who you can trust.
All right.